we're going to be in Ecclesiastes tonight. We're going to be in PJ's favorite book is Ecclesiastes. Favorite one, right, PJ? Yeah. Yeah. I love Ecclesiastes, and I've been loving, these specific books for a while now. I don't know about you, but as we spend, fellowship with the Lord in His Word, He kind of directs us, if you know what I mean. And sometimes you don't know why you hang out in certain areas a lot in the Scriptures. You're kind of in one place. Some seasons I've been in other places, but I know it's the Lord, right? Just real quick by way of just kind of announcing a few things here. Pastor's out. He'll be back on Sunday for us, but he is at Bevan Welders. He's preaching for him at a conference, so him and Mary are there. They'll be back for us on Sunday all day, so we'll have them back. I think Saturday night is when they fly in. And don't forget to take home that prayer bulletin that you have. A lot of prayers that are needed right now. I won't go over all of them. I know Dean has been on everyone's heart as well as everyone else on there. I don't want to, diminish from anyone else. But Mason and I went and saw Dean again today, and today was a little better. So it's the continual prayers that are needed for the roller coaster of what's going on. Okay, and especially for the family, right? So just pray for that whole situation. All right, and selfishly, if I could, I rarely ask for prayers for my family. I just kind of keep that, I worry about the church family, but my mom went in today, got diagnosed with breast cancer, and it is a certain kind that is very curable, and we just need to navigate through that. Just found out a couple hours ago, so if you could pray for her. Her name's Virginia McCullough is her last name, so that's hers. All right, well, Ecclesiastes chapter number 1 is where we're going to be at. I'm going to read about 9 verses here, and then we're going to kind of travel through some thoughts together. It'd be nice for all of us. My goal, I guess, at the end of this is I do have a purpose behind it. You can see the slide, Searching for Meaning. And Ecclesiastes just allows you to do that. That's probably why PJ likes it, and I have an affinity with it myself, and I got to be careful because I can bring myself into places I need to snap out of, But it has that tendency to it. Ecclesiastes does. So what we're going to do tonight is just hop through some thought processes that hopefully will spark an interest for you in your personal life to go back and maybe read back through Ecclesiastes, take some of these points on your notes, and unravel them a little bit more. There's a lot that could be said underneath everything we're going to talk about tonight, and so hopefully that would be the idea behind it. Ecclesiastes 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit hath a man of all of his labor which he taketh under the sun? One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteneth to his place where he arose. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to its circuits. Verse 7, all the rivers run into the sea, and yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. All things are full of labor, man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Verse 9, the things that have been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Solomon, as he starts out here, he's just looking at the monotony of life. And, he's just taken just an observation, if you will. And I don't know about you, but you ever get in a place where life just becomes very mundane. And I get up and I shower and I get dressed and I cook breakfast and I get in a car and I head to work and I do my job and I come, and it's just kind of monotonous at times. And, you know, this kind of monotony that he's looking at, he's kind of looking at just it in the creation itself. And he mentions there the sun and the wind and the rivers and how they just continue after continue after continue. And after I'm gone, there's going to be another generation. After that generation is going to be another generation. And it's just the monotony of all of that. And sometimes the monotony of life can bring us on a journey of trying to ask ourselves, is there more to life than this? It can lead us to ask such pondering questions of what is truly the meaning of life. Solomon, you know, was given all the wisdom that he had of God, and it says that his wisdom excelled the children of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser, it says, listen, than all men. And yet, here he is pondering life. Isn't that something? His wanderings of his ponderings would take him through all the questions man has always grappled with down through the centuries. Why am I here? What is my purpose? How do I find true fulfillment? And is there anything worthwhile under the sun? Many songs have been written regarding this journey. Most, not all, leave you with no answers whatsoever. And you can hear them all day long, and many of you maybe grew up with them. And you can hear their echoes of poetry, sounding boards going out, and it leaves you with no answers, only more emptiness. And yet others have set on this quest, this journey, and they've come to the right conclusions, by the way. And they find true fulfillment. They come to the conclusion of the whole matter. It is simple conclusion that Solomon will draw at the end. Most of you already know the end. You guys already know chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes. But it is, with Ecclesiastes, it's not the truth at the end, because the truth at the end, I think most of us that are saved get it. But it's the journey that Solomon takes you on that makes you appreciate the simple truth at the end. I remember some time ago when I was a lot younger in the Lord, I was sitting in the back pew upstairs in the sanctuary, and Dave Reese was teaching on something really good. It was really dispensational. It was really good. I remember enjoying it. And Mitch Moeller was sitting next to my right, and he said, "Man, that's good." And being a young, foolish, new Christian and probably a little too knowledgeable for my own good, I said, "Yeah, I've heard that before." And he looked at me and he said, "You know, Kurt, it's not always about the truth, but it's about the journey he took to get to it." In other words, the way he brought you to the truth was good. And so that's what Ecclesiastes does for us. We do not have time to journey with Solomon throughout the whole book. It'd be nice if we could do that together, but time will not allow us to. So we're just going to kind of hop through it, if we will. We're going to look at the first couple chapters. We're going to move into the end, and then we'll stop there. So in your notes there, I'm going to start out by just simply saying, where is meaning in this world? What is worthwhile under the sun? And that's what Solomon begins to ponder. Now listen, he doesn't just ponder it. He goes and tests it. Like he puts himself fully vested in it, and then almost like an experiment, to say, I'm going to fully invest in this to see when I'm done with it if it satisfies here when I'm done. And he starts off, and in your notes there, where meaning is not found. Meaning is not found in education. Look at Solomon here, Ecclesiastes 1, look at verse 16. And I think they'll have it up here maybe, but if not, just take a look at your notes, they're on there. I communed with my own heart, saying, Lo, I'm come to great estate and have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I gave my heart to know wisdom and know madness and folly. And I perceived that this also is vexation of spirit. Look at verse 18. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. It is Solomon that will go on later to say that much wisdom, or as he says here, much wisdom, there is much grief. We've talked about that a couple times last time I was up here, about how knowledge, you got to be careful of too much knowledge, because with knowledge increases sorrows. I remember Dr. Shemesh talking about that very thing. He's all the way over there in Thailand, and he's reading the news over there, and he's just weighted down with it because it increases sorrow. The Apostle Paul says this. He says, there are those that are ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of truth. You need to be careful, Solomon says, about seeking wisdom and seeking knowledge without God, because knowledge in and of itself without God is dangerous. It's like the Athenians of old, who spent their time in nothing else but to either to tell or to hear of some new thing. You see, and that's often the case with education without God. The Bible says the world by wisdom, listen, knew not God. There it is. Education without God is completely empty. You want to hear, Solomon will say this in Ecclesiastes 7. I'm bouncing around a little bit, but listen, this is one of those verses I love. It says, Lo, this only have I found, that God hath made man upright, but they've sought out many inventions. You know what I think of that? I think of this right here. This is what I think of. This slide right here. This one. There we go. Look, God has made man upright, but they sought out many inventions. And I think of that verse every time. You know what Martin Luther says about education? He says this. This is Martin Luther, so you're talking 1400s to 1700s. It says, I am afraid that the schools will prove to be the very gates of hell unless they diligently labor in explaining the Holy Scriptures and engraving them on the hearts of the youth. I mean, that was a long time ago. And yet God gave him that insight and that wisdom. Meaning is not found in education in and of itself. Not only that, meaning is not found in entertainment. And he says this in Ecclesiastes 2, 1 through 3 says, And I said in my heart, Go to now, and I approve thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this is also vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainteth my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold of folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. Solomon would go on later on and say this, Sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness, listen, of the countenance, the heart is made better. How contrary. Listen to this. The heart of the wise is in the house of the mourning, but the heart of the fool is the house of mirth. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear, there it is, look at what it says. Read it with me. The what? Song of fools. Isn't that interesting? It says, For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of fools, that this also is vanity. Ecclesiastes 3, 12 through 13. Solomon says this regarding entertainment. Now, there's nothing wrong with entertainment. There's nothing wrong with education. But what we're talking about is, at the end of the day, do those really provide lasting satisfaction in the inner part of your being? And the answer is that they don't. But Solomon's testing them out. He says this, I know that there is no good thing in them, speaking of these laughter and this mirth and this folly. He says, but for a man to rejoice and do good in his life, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all of his labor. Look what he says. This is a gift from God. So he acknowledges that. However, ladies and gentlemen, a vacation was not meant to last forever. I watch, my wife and I enjoy watching, don't giggle at me, but House Hunters International, okay? We like watching that show, and I don't know why. I guess because I don't know many places. I'm not that smart, but I see them go to these other places, and they're looking to buy a home. And my wife and I were always talking, we'll say, because almost without exception, the couple will be asked, why are you moving here? To Switzerland or Germany or wherever they're going. And they said, well, we were just in a rut. We were just in a job that just wasn't satisfying. And they said, so we just wanted to start something new. And they use this a lot. We just wanted a work-life balance. I hear that a lot on that show. You know what they're going to do when they get there? They're going to work. Because they have to provide. They're going to raise kids. Right? I mean, that's just, you can't escape that. The problem is if you think that in and of itself is the end. If that is the total fulfillment within your heart, is that the answer? And the prodigal son knows very well about the end of entertainment, what it looks like in joyful frolic and so forth. So meaning is not found in just entertainment in and of itself. Meaning is not found in exploits, by the way. Look, Ecclesiastes, keep reading in chapter 2 here and look at verse 4. I made me great works. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards, and I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidservants, and had servants born in my house, and also had great possessions of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold and precious treasures of kings and of the provinces. I got me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. Verse 9. So I was great and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Look at verse 10. And whatsoever, now get this, whatsoever my eyes desired, I kept not from them. See how he's trying everything under that sun. Great works of great achievements, of great accomplishments. It goes on to say in verse 10, I withheld not my heart from any joy. My heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then verse 11, he says this, slow down, look at, then I looked. Now that's profound there, man. Now I know, the idea of physical looking, but the idea of you just by looking in your mind's eye at what you've done. You ever ponder that? You ever slow down enough in life to sit outside and just where there's no noise and stop and just look back and ponder something? He says, then I looked back at this. Out of all the things that he'd done, it says, and I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. Now again, Solomon isn't saying that we are not to provide for our families. We have to work. And he's not saying that you couldn't find enjoyment and temporal satisfaction in a job well done. That's not what he's saying. The Apostle Paul addresses those issues about not providing for your own household. You're worse than an infidel. Later on, in fact, in Ecclesiastes, Solomon will say, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much. I like that. However, we cannot begin to look and seek lasting happiness in our achievements. We will find it coming up woefully short. Woefully short. You ever do that? You ever build something and do something and you finish something, and for the moment, there's joy. And you have that pride, that good kind of pride, the pride of craft, the pride of job well done, and that's good. But then it's gone. And it's just like, the wind just drives it away. It's gone. And then you know what your heart does? you look for the next achievement because it has no intrinsic value in and of itself that's lasting. That's lasting. And that in and of itself is the problem, isn't it? All right. Ecclesiastes 12. And we'll finish with this. Where meaning is found? Well, it's pretty simple and it's pretty straightforward. Meaning is, I'll just read it first, then we'll come back and pick it up. How about let's do that? Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Actually, you know what verse I love? So let's just back up because we're just relaxed having fun. Look at verse 11. The words of the wise are as gourds, and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. Gourd, so like a shepherd's gourd, so like a stick with like a sharpened instrument or a pokey thing at the end that they used to prod animals to keep them in line, to keep them moving in the right direction, right? And he says, that's what the words of the wise are. There's a shepherd, a shepherd, great shepherd, the Lord Jesus Christ. And his word is like that. His words are like gourds. They keep you going in the right, when you get off track. And look at verse 12. And further, by these, my son, be admonished of making of many books. There is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. I just like that because it has to do with books. But anyway, verse number 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Now, that's a very simple statement. But if you were to take the time to slowly go through Ecclesiastes, that statement would be a lot weightier on you. And verse number 14, for God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. All right, so where meaning is found? Meaning is found in the fear of God. Those that do not have a fearful reverence of God will lose their way. You know what David says about the wicked? Listen to this. He setteth himself in a way that is not good. He abhorreth not evil. You see that? Solomon says this in Proverbs, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instructions. That's how he starts out. And the child of God would do well to spend time in Proverbs. Job says, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil, that is understanding. Paul says this, having therefore the promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness, listen, in the fear of God. See, the fear of God will help you live right. The fear of God will help you walk right, and the fear of God will keep you in the straight and narrow way. And that's why that's part of the whole conclusion of the matter. Not only that, meaning is found in keeping his commandments. And this is where everyone goes, whoa, Kurt. We're saved by grace, not by works. We're not under the law, we're under grace. And to that I say yes and amen. But I would also have you know that the Apostle Paul makes it abundantly clear that the righteousness of the law is to be fulfilled in us who walk after the Spirit and not after the flesh. Romans 8:4, take a look at that verse right there. That the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. Yield in the Spirit of God, and guess what? You will fulfill the law of God. In fact, I'll just turn there with you. Turn over to Romans 13. Look at what Paul does here. He actually quotes the law. And this would be a good study for anyone to do in and of themselves. But Romans chapter number 13, and look at verse number 8 here. When we're talking about love, and everyone shies away from that word. But anyway, verse number 8, Romans 13:8. Owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the what? Well, what do you mean by that, Paul? We'll keep reading. Look at verse 9. For this, thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet. And if there be any other commandment, I like that. Oh, well, let's just say if there's been any other thing, he just kind of lumps it all together there. But he says, if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. For love worketh no ill to his neighbor, therefore love is the fulfillment of the law. Now, that's a great truth right there. And you guys are well versed in that and understand what that means there. And when we're talking about commandments and stuff, if you love your neighbor as yourself, you will not, as it says there, commit adultery with your neighbor if you love them. If you love your neighbor, you would not seek to kill them or do them harm. If you love your neighbor, you wouldn't bear false witness against them if you love them. And you wouldn't covet their boat or covet their car. You wouldn't covet their stuff. Why? Because you love them. And you see how the love does fulfill the commandments of God. So that's a great truth there. Not only that, and lastly, meaning is found when we understand our accountability that we have. He says in verse number 14 there, for God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Now listen, I've taught on the judgment seat of Christ. Many here have before. I think most of you are well versed in it. But I want you to understand, I just keep hammering this home when it talks about the judgment seat of Christ, that I want you to understand it will not be judged, you will not be judged according to your accomplishments. Now that's hard for people to understand. That isn't the criteria at all. Now you're saved unto good works, yes. But that judgment seat of Christ, ladies and gentlemen, that you're going to stand at and I'm going to stand at, is based on something you can't judge and I can't judge. Anybody know what it is? I'll show you what it is. Justin, come here. You know what it is? It's this right here. Ready? It's right here. You know what that is? It's the heart. It's the heart. It's motives. In 2 Corinthians chapter number 4, the Corinthian church was judging the Apostle Paul. And Paul actually gets kind of heated under the collar and he says, you know, it's a very small thing if I'm judged of you. Because basically he says, because I know my walk and I know who I'm going to be judged by, and he's not going to be judging me according to what you see. He's going to be judging according, ready, the counsels of the heart. You don't know if I'm up here, for the last, 15 years teaching, preaching in this church, if I did it in the right heart motive. Maybe I'm a good actor. I'm serious. You don't know that. And I don't know yours. But I'm telling you who does. And I'm telling you on that day, that's why I try to warn everyone. I'm telling you, you got to keep your heart right. This is not foolishness. It is not trivial. It is serious stuff. Imagine serving God with your whole life, and in here, doing it to be seen of someone, doing it to get accolades, or be bitter, or angry, or because you want to do it to be seen on your social network. Imagine that. Imagine being up there at the judgment seat of Christ and watching all that you did just burn up. And watching some beautiful saint come walking up that just served in a local church, tried to be a blessing to everyone, and did it all because she loved the Lord Jesus Christ. And watch when she put her work and it's tried, it comes out as gold and silver and precious stones. It's a reality, folks. And Paul makes it abundantly clear. Romans 14:10-12 says, but why dost thou judge thy brother? For why dost thou set it not thy brother? For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ, for it is written, as I live, saith the Lord, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. So then every one of us will give an account of himself to God. So in closing, what makes all the endeavors of this life, the things we do, the things we acquire, happiness we experience, what makes it meaningful is when we delight ourselves in the Lord. And the last verse I'll give you is this one. Delight thyself also in the Lord. Ready? And he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. You know what I found? I found this. I found that if I just delight in the Lord, okay? So that means through his word, I have fellowship with him. And I just enjoy him in the details of my life, whether washing clothes, doing dishes, walking my dog, or remodeling a house. I just delight in him. And you know what he does? He gives me truly more than I could ever go seek on my own. He truly has given me all the true, not the desires of the flesh. I had a lot of fleshly dreams, don't we all? But you know what? Looking back, he's given me more than I could ever imagine. He's given me the desires of the heart. He knows exactly what I needed, what I didn't need, and he gives beyond that, beyond measure. What is worthwhile under the sun? Delighting in the Lord and let him just direct your path. Amen?